Sakuigo Arbode, and welcome to Cassus Café. Here today I am with Captain.
Yeah.
And Kli'nah.
Hello!
And Tykoth. And this week, we're talking about Ahsoka Episode 7. Man, this one, I don't know. I think this one might be a little controversial. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. So we'll start off like usual and give our preliminary thoughts, and then we'll jump right into it. So I'll go ahead and start. For me, this episode was kind of a step down from last episode, but it wasn't bad. It didn't do it for me as a penultimate episode. There's some really cool parts that I'm excited to get into, and then there was some like meh parts. But yeah. Anyway, that's my take. Who wants to go next?
I would like to.
Go ahead.
So I just want to say I'm right again. Because when we started this series, we all talked about when we thought this was happening. I know some of you said, "Oh, it can't be post season 3 Mandalorian." Well.
I forgot about that. That we got that confirmed now.
Yeah, and I felt that was just the weirdest thing.
I'm like, right again?
That just felt like the weirdest freaking thing, because I'm like, so it is taking place after Ahsoka. So then why has Elsbeth been sitting on the ship for 2 years?
What tells us? How do we know that it's that time?
You mean after Mandalorian 3?
Yeah.
They directly reference the uprising on Mandalore.
Yeah.
Got it.
They reference the whole big thing on Mandalore. I found that really weird.
To me, makes sense, because if this was pre-season 3, I'm expecting Thrawn's going to be in episode 8, returning to the galaxy. Nothing will happen by the end, because that's going to be end of the season. But that was my original expectation when I said he was going to be showing up in episode 6. I figured there'd be an episode 7 about where they were, and I figured there'd be a bit of a conclusion, and at the end of the episode, it's either them leaving or them on their way back. Which is what I'm believing is going to happen in the next episode. It's either going to end with them arriving in the main Star Wars galaxy, or them departing to there. And I'm going, there's no way you would ignore Thrawn, right? You know?
Yeah, and Mando 3.
Yeah, so I'm like, and with what they were talking about in season 3 of Mando, they'd be like, "Oh, where's Thrawn?" You know? And they all kind of look around like, I don't know. We're still trying to find him.
I mean, I will agree, it makes sense, but now it throws a weird plot hole of why was Elsbeth being transported on this prison ship for so long? You know what I mean?
I mean, she could have been held captive somewhere until the office politics caught up.
I guess.
After all, they're just so buried in stuff to do that they couldn't figure out, or the paperwork for her transfer took that long.
It's just so dumb. It's so weird.
I know, and that's just something I hate Disney overall for doing, is making the New Republic.
Man, we got here fast.
Anyway,
Sorry for the small tangent, but I just wanted to say that there was that confirmation, and I was like, all right again.
Did you like it? Did you like it?
What do you mean, did I like it?
Did you like the episode?
Oh, I would say overall, yes, I did indeed like the episode.
Nice. All right.
That was very simple. I love how complex it was, and I'm like, I like it.
I can't explain why without going into detail, and we're going to go through the episode.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's go to Tykoth next.
Yeah, I've seen some kind of mid reactions, but I think this is equally as strong, only because this really feels like a movie now at this point. Everything feels so interconnected, and there's no pacing. Like, honestly, it just feels like another last episode. Like, they just feel like one and the same. It almost feels like they can't be separated. Much like the other episodes all felt very individual, honestly. And so I think you can't top Thrawn's reveal and how cool that was, but at the same time, like, this just feels like the perfect continuation of that. So I'm not I don't know. I think it fit in my expectations just fine. Really liked it.
It almost feels like the first half of the season is completely like, I want to say produced differently than the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I think I messaged you that.
Somebody flipped
You
the
messaged
switch
me
and
that.
it's completely different.
Yeah, he's Tykoth was like, it feels like somebody woke up.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like Big Brother took over the controller on Halo. And he's like, oh, time to play, boys.
That was right at the end of episode 4. That's when Big Brother took the controller.
Yes, exactly.
I enjoyed this episode. I have started to come to terms with the fact that there are things that I don't like about characters, and the things I don't like about them just aren't going to change, so I have to deal with it. And there were some
That's
cheesy
called being an
lines
adult, and I'm
in
proud
this
of
episode. Yeah. But I mean, like, I enjoyed this episode, though I dislike some things that are just always there in all the other episodes. But overall, I enjoyed it.
Is it Sabine's hair?
Yes, that.
I thought her hair looked great.
And I don't like the stupid
eyes.
faces she makes. She makes like stupid faces with like a weird smirk, which I'm like, okay, maybe she did that in like the cartoons, and the actress is just trying to look like the cartoon. Like maybe that's it, whatever. But yeah, Sabine's hair I don't like.
Did you like it more or less than the last episode?
This episode?
Yeah, do you like this episode
Well,
more or
shouldn't that
less
be for,
than
like,
last
final ratings?
I'm just curious. No, it doesn't have to be.
Not
On
more.
par. On par.
On par.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
On par.
All right. Well, let's jump right into it. So, let's see here. We have some flashback or the recaps. So it starts off with her little tribunal.
Oh yeah, this
Harris
is where one of the
Tribunal.
cheesy parts happens.
So this is actually
You better not insult Chopper here.
no, I'm not.
No, it wasn't Chopper.
No.
Okay, good.
So this scene in general kind of wasn't feeling it. It didn't do much for the plot overall. It was just kind of there, and we got we did get the cool C-3PO cameo.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's the cheesy part, but yeah.
But is Anthony Daniels again? Obviously,
Yeah.
as long as he's alive, he's gonna be 3PO.
In every single
literally
possible
everything.
thing.
Mhm. That man's the busiest guy on earth. But yeah, I thought that was cool. But overall, the scene just felt kind of pointless.
I disagree. 'Cause I feel like it's setting up this senator to be a Imperial agent.
Well, we've already kind of seen him get all.
Yeah, but it also probably helps keep Hera in the storyline because she wasn't in last episode at all. So if she was just like gone for 2 episodes, they probably were like, we really need to throw her in there somewhere.
I mean, it's not the Hera show, you know.
No, but they could also be setting up stuff for the last episode or season 2 or the next episode of whatever show is going to come next.
I feel world building is important.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like this needs to be done. And we would have critiqued them to going if Hera just showed up somewhere and be like, well, what happened to her being recalled?
That's fair.
So you have to do this.
Yeah.
You know, is it the most exciting part of the episode? No.
That's
What?
why they put it in the beginning.
You know,
Get it over
and-
with.
You know, and as much as most people don't like episode 1 of the prequels, I still enjoy it because it does a lot of this
Oh, yeah.
importance of setting the ground, doing the world building. To me, this is showing the cracks in the New Republic from the very beginning. The fact that just one senator is causing all this like problems. He's like, you guys are just wasting resources, and he's causing this injunction or whatever. And you know, the chancellor is like, doesn't seem to have an issue with it, but she's clearly doesn't have all the power. Clearly, they didn't
Also-
want that.
Also, for a military court-martial, is it kind of strange that the chancellor of the government is there? Like,
Maybe it's because she's
It's
technically
like-
her superior, though.
well, it's like the equivalent of a president being at a normal military court martial.
Well, that depends on whether you consider this a normal court martial.
To be fair, she is a general.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure if something like this were to happen to a general in our military, I'm pretty sure the commander-in-chief would be there.
Yeah.
So nothing seems out of place for me in this scene. To me, they're really setting up the senator to be an antagonist or maybe even a villain. Because who knows? Maybe he's just that like thick-headed. Maybe he really, maybe he's not an Imperial agent and he's just that greedy or whatever. He wants the money for something else.
He's this universe's Borskfalia, for anyone who knows who that is.
Yeah, I didn't really have any issues with this scene in particular. I mean, it's like C-3PO is obviously sort of nostalgia bait, and I sort of hate that I love it, but I also do, and it's like, I don't know, whatever you do with that.
I do have something here to note about this scene that regards to C-3PO and Leia.
Yeah.
They make a note that Leia is in charge of military defense. This is, in a way, setting the ground for her to become the leader of the Resistance in the sequels.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I hate, because I hate the sequels, but I do give them props to doing this kind of story building and this world building. Leia's in charge of the military, that makes sense. I don't think Leia's really that kind of, I'm going to sit on my butt and be a senator all day after winning the war. She still cares about, keeping the galaxy safe. And she's too much of, I guess, hands-on to sit back and let somebody else do it. So it makes sense that Mon Mothma is the chancellor, and it makes sense that Leia is the defense minister, whatever you want to call it. And it also makes sense that Leia would be the one that would come in sneaky and do this. Oh yeah, I authorized this mission. That's totally Leia, and I love that.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
And so, as a result, is C-3PO a bit of a nostalgia bit? Maybe, but at the same time, C-3PO is very much connected to Leia.
I think it's a bit better. It's a bit more tasteful to use C-3PO in this position than, like, for instance, bring in a CGI Leia or something.
I agree.
Oh, for sure. This is definitely. I'd rather have C-3PO show up and deliver this data, because it makes sense for Leia to show up. I mean, she's probably got other things she's more worried about.
Yeah,
but she's still taking care of her people.
There are definitely worse nostalgia things that and yeah, so it's fine.
I mean,
I really like
D2 do it technically too.
Yeah,
I would have actually liked to see them as a pair. That would probably be a bit more nostalgia bait.
But R2's with Luke.
That is true. So to me, this is a clever use of, yes, we're bringing some nostalgia in, but at the same time, you would expect to see C-3PO, especially at the time period we are in. This is not 30 years in the future now. This is, 5, maybe 6 or 7 years after Fall of Endor? I would expect these kind of characters to be still somewhat relevant for this time period.
And I do like the joke where he's like, just droids, and then Trevor's like, "Rah," and like,
yeah, that was funny.
You tell him.
I like how C-3PO's like, I don't need identification. I'll be like, yeah, that's C-3PO. You should know who that is.
All right. So, is there something you wanted to say, Tykoth, or?
No, I mean, I liked it. It wasn't. I mean, it's probably like the least interesting scene of the bunch, but I don't think it's bad, and I think it's setting up towards more. So nothing crazy other than I love me some Mon Mothma.
Sounds good.
Mommy Mothma.
Right. Next scene, we've got Ahsoka training. What? How are we feeling? How are we feeling about this?
Well, I don't know if we're gonna complain about the. There's a lot of scenes in this, and this is the start of it, that feels so samurai-esque again, very Kurosawa, and so I'm like pumped about that inspiration that seems to be happening. But I don't know if you guys like the form differences, or how you feel about that.
I was a bit disappointed for what they could have done here. If you want me to elaborate a bit more.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So he mentions the different forms of combat that he is training her in, right?
Hmm.
I would have actually liked for him to go into those details, even if briefly, like, oh, Form 3, Form 5, and so on, and said, what is the key of this form and when to use it? Because most Jedi would probably stick to one form. Whereas I think Anakin actually tried to take the best of multiple forms, and very much so when he became Vader and he became limited, he literally used all of the forms. He mastered them and combined them in a unique way to make a fighting style that worked for his limitations. So he kind of made that hint here that he was doing that with Ahsoka, and I was really hoping that he would just be like, this is Form 1, this is what it is, and you should use it for this, and something like that. Even if it's brief, here's the thing. We know there's, at least in the old EU, I don't know about Disney canon, there was 7 forms.
Hmm.
But that was never really talked about in the movies or anything directly. And I felt, and he sounded like he was hinting about that, but didn't go any further. And I would really would have loved for him to actually just even briefly name the forms and what they're good for. I think that would have been pretty awesome for a training scene. So, but alas, they did not.
Yeah. I can agree with that. That'd be kind of cool. I always like when they bring in like the super deep nerdy stuff into these kinds of shows and whatnot. But
It's just fairly rare.
yeah, it's not that common. The last time I remember them doing something like that was actually in Solo. They brought a lot of original EU
Terrace
stuff
Cassie.
from Solo. Yeah. But yeah, that's another issue. Is like sometimes Dave wants to pull from the EU and incorporate it, but he doesn't. He like pulls back just enough that he doesn't like. I don't know. It's like he's scared to offend the EU people, which it's not. It doesn't matter. You have already offended us. So go ahead and just try and do more with it. You know.
I mean,
It's-
I wouldn't be opposed if Disney started adding more forms, right? Like Form 8, Form 9, you know? Yes,
Yeah.
that's not in the old EU, but this is your canon.
For example, all these samurai forms. These aren't actual real.
Yeah, these are
Star
none of
Wars
the
forms.
original 7 forms. Feel
Yeah.
free to add Form 8 and Form 9, by all means. I do not care. I mean, as long as you don't taint what was there to begin with. Because then you're building upon it, and then everyone can, well, maybe not everyone, but more people can be happy, you know?
Yeah.
It's neat to see Hayden again, but we kind of did it too. So it was like, okay, well, we got a little nugget.
Yeah, this
cool.
did feel more of a, like I guess nostalgia. Berry.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the fact that he really didn't provide much to the scene. And this is where I wish he would have actually did more something like talking about the different forms and telling her when to use these particular forms in combat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if it's like a few sentences for like each form,
And
then I would say his presence makes sense, right? Because then it's refocusing her back into what she needs to be.
Here's like a little critique too of like her character in this moment. Like she is really great, and I'm very happy to see like normal Ahsoka again, and she's doing great. But I really just don't understand what he taught her to make her happy again.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it only makes it more evident like the further out we get from that episode. Like what was the lesson? Because she is like vastly different just from saying live or die. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, if that's all it took, man, I should be a happy boy.
I 100% agree with you, because even when I watched that episode, as much as I liked it, I
like it too. Yeah,
was confused. That I was like, what was the lesson again?
Yeah, for this scene, I'll talk a little bit because I haven't been talking about it very much. But I don't know what much I can say more other than what I've said before, where I just don't care about Ahsoka. So this scene didn't do anything for me. It was like you guys have said, it was cool seeing Anakin, but it wasn't as deep, if we could call the last time we saw him deep, but it wasn't as deep as that. So it was like whatever.
At least this time it's actually him.
Yeah. It's actually
it's a
technically really
recording.
him.
And we do know that it's him.
Yeah, we do know it's him this time. So that is something. But yeah, and then the next scene they come out of hyperspace right into a minefield, and this whole sequence is really cool.
This is really like, feels like, especially with the music and everything, this feels like original trilogy to me a little bit. Feels that asteroid scene. I don't know, it just I love this scene a lot. It feels like a lot of scenes combined, episode 2 with hiding in an asteroid type of environment, but there's just a lot of fun parts. This is great.
Don't ever tell me the odds scene without actually correctly quoting it. I was like, please, for the love of God, don't make that same quote here. I'll kill you for not being original.
Yeah. I don't know if it was like the music just goes super old school in this scene, and it's not like the actual themes of the old. It very much feels Williams-esque, and so yeah, that was nice.
It feels like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. This whole scene really does.
This episode, I'm like, I feel like I'm watching Star Wars again.
That is kind of how I feel watching at least the last few episodes.
Yeah,
it's like, wow, this is actually, I feel like I'm back in that kind of Star Wars feel again, which is something I didn't get from a lot of the other shows or the sequel trilogy. So it was really interesting. Just how it makes me feel like I'm actually watching Star Wars, which makes me mad because I hate Ahsoka. But still, just everything else about it is very Star Wars to me.
Well, hopefully this is the beginning of them after, what did they buy the IP? Like 2013 or whatever?
2013.
So 10 years it took them for them to figure out, this is how to make Star Wars.
It's 2012.
It literally took them a decade.
Yeah.
So maybe we actually do have hope. But I'm not getting my hope up too much.
Is it A New Hope?
Oh God, please no. Don't.
No.
Got him.
But dang. All right. So next scene, she kind of
Mines.
So they go through the mines, and then she takes refuge in one of the rings and stuff.
The graveyard.
Yeah. And which was kind of a neat callback to when Obi-Wan takes refuge in the asteroids. You could also make the argument it's a bit of a callback to episode 5 when the Millennium Falcon was doing it, which that was my original thought, because the droid was making comments like, we shouldn't be doing this. This is like suicide, and he was he's like, she was like, oh, we'll be fine. He's like, no, we're not. Do you know the odds? They're not great. So this very much felt like that scene again, but it felt also like it wasn't a direct copycat either, because it's not asteroid, it's a graveyard. Also, the most logical thing to do in this situation, as well as Thrawn being absolutely brilliant and mining the area which they come through, and it's playing directly into his hand. Yeah. So then we get to this next scene. We got this awesome shot of the Chimera again, and then them loading up the stuff. Now, we didn't really talk about it much, I don't think, in the last review, but what do you guys think they're loading into the Star Destroyer?
That's the part that I'm confused about, because if they were going to go together, why wait until the hyperspace ring shows up?
Yeah.
You know, why not be ready and have whatever the provisions that you're taking aboard be on there already? Because now you're not wasting, but you're giving time to the good guys to actually have a chance to stop you. I don't think that's actually going to happen, but it does feel a bit forced, right?
Okay. Bear with me. You know how last week we were like, Baylan has a secondary mission?
Yeah.
And it probably has something to do with like the Night Sister magic type thing
Possibly.
or whatever. What if it was something to do with that?
So yeah, that's one of the theories that I was gonna get into, where some people think they're loading up bodies because for an army, like an undead army kind of thing, because they did that in the Clone Wars. The Night Sisters resurrected dead sisters, but these also, I believe, they specifically said that they're in the catacombs. That they're taking these things out of the catacombs.
Because it could be something that's time sensitive, that you can't just load it on your ship and leave it there, because like if something were to go wrong, it could be a catastrophe and destroy the ship, and then you'd be screwed. You know?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I guess it literally depends on what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they played it off of that Thrawn is willing to help them provided he gets a route out, right? So maybe that was. I understand that it would make sense that you wouldn't help.
Like like the
until
mothers
you know...
have some kind of deal with him.
So
yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting theory, and I like it. I also think, like, some people think the stormtroopers themselves are undead.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I don't know how much stock I put into that, but it would be really neat if it was.
I could be some of them possibly being it, but not all of them.
Well, if that was the case, then why does Thrawn keep talking about his numbers dwindling?
I mean,
at some point you're gonna run out of undead.
I mean, they die a second time. Maybe they can't be resurrected again. I don't know. Because, I mean, you can kill the zombie Night Sisters and they don't come back, I guess.
I mean, it could be maybe something like the Night Sisters don't want to waste their magic on keep reviving people, too. Like, they want to store it up so that they can revive their own army that they're planning.
It seems kind of weak and far-fetched. I don't think that's what it is. I think there are...
I mean, it's Disney Star Wars. It's all weak and far-fetched.
I think...
I'm kidding.
I think that it's 50-50 for me. They could be undead, they could be real. I don't give a crap. What I care more about is like what they're loading on. I think that's more intriguing. Given that they said they're coming from the catacombs and they all look like roughly the shape of a body bag.
Casket.
Yeah, caskets, that kind of stuff. So, be interesting.
Either way, I think it's really cool in that Thrawn seed. Like, I feel that we're building up towards like the first time the villains are gonna win, and it's since like Empire Strikes Back. So I'm kind of pumped for them to ultimately sort of lose. Yeah. For now.
I think it's funny every time we see Thrawn, he has to have a cool like walk into the room entrance.
Yeah. Yeah, but he is cool at the same time, you know.
Yeah.
And I really like how he just nails the presence to me. Always cool, very calm and collected. You know, the brain's always working. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, I think he plays the part really well.
Yeah, and I like how he's making decisions that the witch doesn't seem to understand all the time.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
That really plays into the fact that he's that much more brilliant than everyone else.
Yep.
Because he's not looking at just the immediate situation. He's looking at the bigger picture.
It is satisfying to see him outsmart and outplay literally everyone around him. Enemies and allies alike.
Yep. Yeah, no one they all think they get one over on him here, but no one does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really the only thing that can beat Thrawn is things he can't predict. And mechanically, or at least EU canonically, because he really hasn't been in the Disney canon for that long, has been the Force. He can't predict things related to the Force. That's how he ultimately lost to the Rebels, I believe, in at the end of the season 4 or whatever.
He lost because he was double crossed by his his Nogri guard, I think, if I remember correctly.
No, I'm
Because
talking Disney canon. I'm not talking.
oh, Disney canon. No,
Yeah,
I don't know how.
I know
he
what
lost
happens
it.
to
We don't know how
him
he
in
loses in
the
Disney.
old EU. I'm talking, like, I know in the old EU he generally, I know his ultimate demise was he got betrayed, but up till that point, really the only time he lost usually was something that he couldn't calculate, which was the Force, and why I forgot the name of the creatures he would employ.
Ysalinary.
Yeah, they would push the Force away, which that makes total sense from Thrawn's perspective. Try to suppress the thing you have zero prediction capability on.
Yep.
Such a huge variance.
I love when he finds out about Ahsoka and he's like, "Oh, the student of Anakin, unpredictable."
I'm sure Thrawn, knowing what Skywalker became, he became Vader. That just gave him so much information.
So much info.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
because even when he looked, because you could say he looked through the panel, and you could tell when he read that was just his body language was like, "She's the apprentice of General Skywalker." Like, bulbs are going off in his brain. Like, just excellent acting there.
Yeah. Then we have this scene where they kind of huddle in the ring on a whalebone. So that's not too significant. But then we go to the crab convoy.
Yeah, love these creatures. I don't care what you say.
No, I think the creatures are cute.
They give Ewok, you know.
Yeah.
Dude,
Not in looks, but in function.
Their house ship things are so slow. It's like riding a camel.
It makes sense though that they're not not that great.
It's so slow. They really are like turtles.
10 out of 10 would ride this ride at Disney.
I'm surprised. Like, what I don't get is why Ezra isn't trying to get out of her more of how she got there.
I say that they're so jokey that it takes away a little bit of the seriousness of what she had to do.
Yeah, it's like he's been stuck there for 10 odd years and she just shows up and he doesn't press the matter. Like,
it's a little silly, yeah. And then like she's really abstract about Ahsoka and like I'd be like, no, but like she's alive, right? I know they address that later, but
he's just so chill.
Yeah, he seems like he's like got enlightened or something. Something definitely was like super different with him now. Like when I first saw him, when we first saw him in the show, I was like, oh, that's pretty much Ezra. That's like the Ezra I remember. And then I remember how actually serious Ezra can be and how mature he got in the later seasons. And I'm like, he's kind of like regressed a little, maybe. I think, you know? Especially seeing him more. Yeah, especially seeing him more in this episode. I feel like he's a little bit too much of a kidster. Than he should be.
I know he's always been the more like positive outlook kind of character, but like, come on, I mean.
He had some dark moments in the last season.
Oh yeah,
at least.
But one of the things that really irked me is that he's always like, "I can't wait to go home," right? And then at no point does we get on camera her saying, "No, you're not going home." Because then at the end of the episode, he goes, "Well, I guess I'm going home after all." And I'm like, "Well, when did you know that you weren't?" You know?
Yeah.
So I think this was a bit mismanaged. I don't think this was as good as it could be.
And there's one more thing that I think could be done with Sabine. I like her decision, having to make that hard decision, like choose Ezra or Thrawn coming back. Like I like that moral quandary, but she doesn't seem to have any sort of guilt over it that really shows up. And so I think that just through some non-dialogue scenes, I think there could be a little more like, ooh, I really do feel bad though. Like especially at this point.
Yeah, I think we got a little hint of that in the last episode when she finally meets him for the first time. But
it wasn't
after
very
that,
strong.
and in this episode, for sure, there's not a whole lot of that.
No, it seems like she's just like, I made the right choice.
I think she might have she might make some apologies to Ahsoka later. I have a feeling that's gonna come early in the next episode.
Probably.
I hope.
Yeah,
and
I'm
then
not
Ahsoka's
looking
gonna be
forward
like
to it.
online and be like, but no, you actually made the right choice. Millions will die, but you made the right choice.
That's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Because she's Ahsoka the White now, and she's happy, and she doesn't cross her arms anymore.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, she might cross her arms.
Then they have Thrawn has the witches try and find Ahsoka.
Well, before that, we get the Balin scene,
Yeah.
which
It is kind of
confirms what we were thinking before.
Well, wait a second. Is that now? Hold
Yeah,
on.
where he goes
Yeah,
off.
that's before the witches.
He's like, "You
When he
must-"
actually talks to shit. No.
Oh,
so-
I'm sorry.
no,
It
it's not.
splits up. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do the witches. The witches are really cool. They're really scary.
Yeah.
They're
And I'm
actually
going,
they're actually frightening.
And I'm like, what kind of magic are you using to figure this stuff out?
Yeah, I don't know why Night Sisters, these great mothers or whatever they are, have to use these tiny little balls with lasers to do their.
Maybe they're like
tracking.
the ood, and their brain is inside of the balls.
That's
They just have tiny.
That's a
Doctor Who
Doctor Who
reference.
reference.
They look cool. They're scary. I like
Yeah.
them. I don't think
Not-
you do, but I like them.
They're fine. They're whatever. I'm interested to see what part they really play in the grand scheme of things. Because right now they're just kind of evil witches that do Thrawn's bidding, and I feel like that's not how this is supposed to be going. Like
It also feels like they're
supposed to
just
be
evil
mutual.
witches that I don't have a Sith here to tell me things, so I just have these witches that can do Force-like things for me.
Mm-hmm.
She's a
Oh.
witch.
We know
Banner.
Ahsoka Tano's coming. Oh, okay.
So
And
the
then we found her.
Mhm. So the next significant scene is when Ahsoka's reaching out to Sabine, and I felt this was kind of interesting because up until this point, it's kind of been established Sabine can't feel the Force,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden she can feel the Force.
I mean, kind of.
She
I feel like it's
can't-
mostly Ahsoka using the Force to
I think
push it
yeah.
onto her.
yeah, but she has to also be like susceptible to it.
Yeah, but Ahsoka is that strong, you know. She
Do you really need to have the Force to hear stuff?
Yeah, I believe so.
But like,
It's part of their Force connection, their
But-
Force bond.
think about how like you can change how people think. Like we are not the droids you're looking
Yeah,
for.
but
They're
that's-
affecting the other person.
Yeah, but she's not doing a giant Jedi mind trick. She's trying to communicate with her.
Which is a Jedi
Mm.
mind trick.
No,
Telepathy isn't a mind trick.
no.
Sounds like a mind trick to me.
Telepathy isn't a mind trick. Mind trick is kind of persuading somebody to do something.
I'm with mostly Tykoth here. I think it's more of Ahsoka's doing all the legwork, you know.
Mm-hmm.
it's a 90-10 split. you know.
Yeah, like Ahsoka's doing the connection. She's establishing all. She's the one talking to her. You know, I think this is also a bit of a reference to Luke doing that to Leia.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Leia's also Force
Yeah.
sensitive.
Yeah.
Ahsoka or Sabine, up until this point, has been shown to not be.
Well,
Force sensitive.
I think Sabine
No,
is, but it's
she's been
it's like
shown to be-
10%.
She's been shown to be inept at you controlling the Force. It's not the same thing as lacking it.
But she's also said she doesn't feel it.
Yeah. This could be
Yeah.
a very long debate about Sabine's Force
I would like to
sensitivity.
do more research on this topic.
But yeah, I just think that it was interesting. Like, this is kind of Sabine's first real show of Force sensitivity, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
She's
And
she
if-
may
actually
and
have
having
the weakest
ability-
Force sensitivity on the chart. but she still would be on the chart, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what the droid was alluding to. Yeah, every Padawan I've ever seen is better than you, but you're still a Padawan.
And if this is the case and they're building up to that, it actually is a good way to introduce that somewhat, because it's a very she doesn't have to be good to have that.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a nice slow way to integrate it rather than all of a sudden she's amazing and can do everything.
I'm like Rey and I can push things.
And she also didn't really know for sure. She felt like it was a familiar presence rather than an actual like audible thing. So yeah, there's like a small, like her ability to feel it is small, but she still feels it. So
She felt it, but she didn't understand it.
yeah.
Because she was still surprised to see Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas Ahsoka was like, I know where she is, you know.
Yeah.
So, that's my take on it.
And then they get attacked.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another fun little action scene, honestly. The Balin scene where they
It
send him to
comes
go
up-
down.
It comes up soon. It's after.
It's before they get attacked,
Yes,
obviously.
It's before Sabine and Ezra get attacked here. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Sort of confirms that she's leaving him over power. She's consumed by that.
Mhm.
Yeah, or at least he acknowledges that she's got a different will than his, a different ambition, which is really neat and just gives more depth to his character, that he already knows kind of how she's feeling. And he has a different path that he wants to take that she's just not about.
I think it's funny that this chick thinks that she can beat Ahsoka and Ezra and Sabine all at the same time.
Well, obviously she didn't.
She ran, but
Yeah.
Wow,
Well, she thought she could beat Ezra and Sabine together. She didn't know the thing, the other people were gonna come right away.
Yeah, the stormtroopers.
I really hope Balin has a great last moment this next episode. I mean, I know they probably weren't planning on this, but yeah, I just hope his arc is something that feels fulfilled, because it's gonna be really sad if it's sort of left to nothing.
Yeah, I wonder if his character is gonna die, or if he's gonna still be just like I wonder if they're just gonna leave him on this planet, and everyone else leaves and he's just left on this planet.
Like, my sense is that the last we're going to see of him, he's going to be pursuing whatever he's like looking for. We're not going to see what it is, and then they had probably planned for him to be part of something later, and
Could wrap
unfortunately
up
we
his
won't.
story in books for sure. Yeah, I know. Every time I see him, it makes me so sad that actor Ray Stevenson, he's not here anymore, because he does such a good job, and I want to see so much more of Balin, and I know I can't.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so
I
sad.
think I was messaging you about that, but I think he's like one of the strongest performances, not just, and this isn't even just because he's gone now, but just in Star Wars in general. I just think he's like one of the better performers that we've had.
Yeah. Like when we're getting a little ahead, but when he fights Ahsoka, that's like the coolest freaking fight of this show so far to me. Like him, his first fight
was way better.
Yeah, his first fight with Ahsoka was awesome, but this fight with Ahsoka, just the setting, the lighting, the tone, the choreography, all of it, just
Oh yeah,
man. And he still like overpowers her, and the only reason
I like that he still wins. Yeah.
The only reason she gets away is the Hu Yang,
I don't
carpet
think
bombs.
he overpowered her, just that couldn't defeat him. They were more of like in a stalemate, which obviously that would be a victory for him, because he's
just trying to stall. Yeah.
It depends on who has the most stamina and strength.
Yeah.
Well, what I found interesting, he's like, surely you realize you can't beat me, and there was a bit of a Marvel moment when she was like, maybe, and I immediately thought of the Thor scene where he's like, maybe, that he can, from Ragnarok. That's what it felt like to me. Where she's like, maybe, but maybe I don't have to. And then sees the shit come in, launching a bunch of flares. And I was like, okay, that was good. I like that.
Yeah. I'm just so intrigued.
That is
cool.
such a resourceful thing and something that Anakin would do, right? Anakin did not play by the rules, which is one of the reasons why I liked him so much. Is that he did what was necessary to win, Yeah. And that's such a Anakin thing that she did there, and I loved it.
Those shots before that fight, I guess we can wait till we get there, but
okay.
I'm just the shots right before the fight as they're leading up to swing are the most like Kurosawa shots of Star Wars, especially that wide shot of the two of them, the big landscape in the background, just like so vintage, so samurai. I love it.
Let's roll back a bit. How do you guys feel about this whole chase sequence? To me, I didn't feel like it was bad at all. It was whatever. I heard some people say that it felt clunky and slow. And it's like, well, the things
kind of the point of it.
Are slow. Yeah.
Like I think that was the point. Is it was a clunky chase, and that's why that's why they have to stop because it doesn't work. They can't outrun them.
Yeah. So I thought it was natural. It felt decent.
Yeah, I haven't really gotten the complaints on this episode in general.
I understand a few, but yeah, my opinion of it actually got better the second time I watched it. The first time I watched it, I was like, this is kind of meh. But then the second time I watched it, the things that I really liked stood out more, and the things I didn't like didn't really stand out as much. So I guess the good things outweighed the bad. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I didn't really care for the chase. I mean, it wasn't bad in my opinion. Was it thrilling? Meh. I kept waiting for the moment where she would give the lightsaber to Ezra.
I was kind of hoping that too. Yeah.
The part with the ships chasing each other, I honestly didn't notice at all. It just like went through my brain in one side and out the other, and I was more focused on the fight on the ground than in the sky.
Yeah, with the Ahsoka ship. But yeah, so then we get to Ahsoka's fight that we kind of touched on. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
My favorite freaking thing. Then Balin does all these awesome two-handed knight swings and everything, and I just God, I need a cosplay of him. I need a lightsaber. I need everything. I want his beard.
This
everything.
Fight did not
I want to be him.
Yeah.
So I really liked him in this fight better. It did not feel like he was swinging a baseball bat. They just felt like very impactful strikes. So I don't know if they had a different choreographer this time around or what, but I felt like the second fight with Balin and Ahsoka was much better choreographed, in my opinion.
Yeah. Alright, so now we get to Sabine trying to give Ezra's lightsaber back. How do we feel about this? Because when I first saw this, I was like, that'd be cool, you could have Ezra take his lightsaber. But I thought it was also just as cool that he was like, no, you keep it. I've got the Force. And then he started using the Force in a Kung Fu style thing. And I thought that was really neat because we don't really see that very much. We don't see people just using the Force in their hand-to-hand very much. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But I did see a lot of people were like, wow, they just don't want to give the legacy characters their lightsabers back, blah, blah, blah. And like,
yeah,
I see that, but
like, I understand that maybe for the non-Sith threat, that maybe, yes, I mean, you keep this lightsaber, I don't need it,
It shows his confidence in his own skill has grown quite a bit too.
Right.
It's just yeah.
But when it's finally just them, I'm like, Ezra, take the flippin' lightsaber. You would be much better suited to fight her than,
yeah,
Sabine.
I kind of wished at that point Sabine was like, okay, but games aside, here, take it.
Right, seriously, it felt incredibly childish of Ezra not to understand the gravity of the situation, and Because he himself was like, wait, you're training to be a Jedi? He himself was shocked. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, borrow the lightsaber back from Sabine to deal with this. You can give it back afterwards, okay?
Well,
But
if you think about it, he has
that
spent
hurts me.
10 years not having his lightsaber and having to, like,
Yeah,
I'm
he
sure
didn't have
he's
to
had to
fight
defend
anybody-
himself against these raiders and other natural things where he's had to learn how to use the Force without having a lightsaber to defend himself.
Yeah, but they weren't using the Force back or using a lightsaber against him either. So, like, yeah, like, oh, using the Force to stop the Raiders? Sure, not a big deal. He probably does that for the last decade. But when a Sith shows up again, I mean, you're not going to be, like, reaching for that? I mean,
Who
you should
knows?
know.
Maybe he's just been training day in, day out because there's nothing else to do on this planet except learn the language that these little creatures are speaking.
Mhm.
I did
Yeah.
think it was cool that he was going toe to toe with Shin without a lightsaber, and
Mhm.
it was really neat seeing that.
And I'm not sure if that shows how good he is or how not great Shin
I think it
Yeah.
shows how good he is.
is.
I don't think she's too shabby.
Yeah.
Nobody insults Shin.
I mean, I like her. I just feel like every time she fights someone, she loses, and it makes me lose confidence in her skills. I need to see her fight someone who's not that great so I can see her win more.
Yeah.
I've seen that like Tobey Maguire meme from Spider-Man 2 where it like shows her and then he goes back to him and he's like, that's my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Actually, no. The thing is that she fought Sabine and failed twice now fighting Sabine, and that's
Well,
why
technically, no.
it feels like she's not.
She won the
Sabine-
first time.
She just failed to kill her.
Yeah, failed as a Sith.
Actually, she won both times.
Yeah, just because of plot reasons, which we argued about. didn't
He
kill her.
told her not to kill her, and then yeah, the first time she did, but then just had to run off because of Ahsoka. So
I guess.
At the
So.
same time, he did beat someone with no power, or she beat someone with no power.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, she hasn't beat anyone majorly impressive at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to see her just like raffle
Like,
stop.
congrats, you beat the worst Padawan in known Jedi archive history twice. Congratulations, here's a cookie. Here you go. I mean, that's what we're working with here.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. She should. I think if she's really supposed to be super powerful, she might have handled Ezra a little bit better.
Yeah.
Which is why when Ahsoka showed up and just didn't even use her own saber to beat the snot out of her, I was like, yes,
I like
this is what
that.
I've seen before out of you, Ahsoka.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Like the first time she got introduced in the Rebels TV show where she beat the snot out of two of them at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Ahsoka. Yeah, you know. So
Yeah, yeah. I like seeing her have a power moment finally. Like the first powerful moment of the show.
Oh, there's one more thing about the Balin fight. Sorry, we're going back and forth because that's kind of how the scenes are split up. But
yeah.
there's one more thing about the beginning of the Balin sequence with Ahsoka that I forgot to mention. I thought it was really interesting how he's like, I'm surprised to see you again or whatever, and she's like, disappointed. He's like, no, but I'm sorry, I can't let you, interfere. So I think it was interesting,
Yeah, he was kind of like, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Like, how did you survive? That was very much like he was intrigued, but I also have a job to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he's also like, he's not obviously, like we've said, he's not all pure evil or something like that. Like there's a
He doesn't like his
complexity to him.
anger, or he's not like a traditional Sith where anger fuels and controls him, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely not the case with him.
Man, I hope we find out what he's after.
Me too, dude.
Because
And if they end up
it's like it's
going-
getting to me.
I'm wondering if they'll end up going a recast route and who they would get. Because
I don't know.
I don't think
Man,
anyone
it's
can
tricky.
match this performance, bro.
I don't think so
Mhm.
either, which is why I think you're better off just not touching it afterwards.
Yeah. God,
Especially
it's so
if he has a
sad.
mysterious send-off, I think that would make it even better. Like,
Yeah.
read the book to understand what he actually did, but that whole, like, mysterious of disappearing into the night kind of thing with him.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario. If they don't end it and if it's not satisfying, do a little spin-off novel and then call it good.
Hear
Don't.
me out. Go make a video game about it too.
Hey,
Oh,
That's the
all
good
right.
way to do it too.
dude, I'd love
then
to
you-
play as Bail.
And then
Then you
they
can get a
just
good
make a
voice
whole
actor. Yeah.
series of video
Yeah.
games in that universe and leave it over there. He can play over there.
Yeah.
Leave Star Wars alone.
Yeah, I wonder if that goes.
You know, now that you mention it, that's actually a really brilliant way, because I'm sure you can get a voice actor that can mimic his voice
Yeah.
very
And just-
closely.
Or
You
just
know.
AI or something.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
Like they do. It's gonna happen.
I know, but I'd rather.
But there are amazing voice actors that will, with practice, be able to mimic his voice in this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Especially when he's not very, like, he doesn't say a lot. He says a lot with a little, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not like they would have to say too many words, actually.
It's also interesting at the end of their fight, she's running away, right? And he's looking at her and he has this smirk as she's running away. Like he's like, kind of admiring her a little bit. But then he's got this like contemplative, he looks to the other direction and he gets serious. And it's like, what is he looking at? What is he thinking about? And then
Yeah.
that's
That's where he's
presence,
going.
yeah. He's so freaking cool, dude. I can't get over it.
You know what didn't bother me this episode at all was Ahsoka's Leku. Didn't
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah,
Didn't.
I think
I don't
the
know. Maybe
more we
it's
see it,
getting
the
more
more it doesn't matter.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting like the whole show is getting more interesting. So I'm just like less paying attention to these little
Yeah.
tiny details.
Like we probably just don't care because we've seen it enough. It's
Like
Yeah.
I said at the
we're growing
beginning,
used to it.
I've learned to deal with the things I don't like about these characters.
But no, it's fine. Then the Ezra Sabine fight finishes up as well, and I think it's funny that Ezra's like, "Oh, you didn't take us as prisoners. We'll go with you or whatever." And then she's like, "No."
It also, I'm glad she didn't go
Yeah.
through or whatever, because it makes no sense to take them prisoner again.
Oh yeah.
That made me like her a lot
Because
again.
she was told to destroy them, not take them hostage.
Right.
As a true Sith, I like her. She's such a true Sith. She's not some wimpy person that's just gonna fold over. No, she's gonna kill them. I like it.
Then proceeds to get wimpily folded over.
By Ahsoka, yeah.
She doesn't do it by her own will, okay?
Yes, ever since the first episode, she's clearly she's like your traditional Sith, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Balin has been established that he's not your traditional Sith.
She's both a baddie and a baddie.
Mhm.
Yep.
In the millennial sense of the word and the Gen Z sense of the word.
Not sure how to take that.
Yep.
Just take it.
And then they seemingly win, but Thrawn is like, "This has been a great victory."
I hope he gets to
strategic
pull
victory,
even
right?
more.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have a strategic victory or a tactical retreat, and he even mentions that, hey, Vader's not here, so this is a victory in my book. Like, he's kind of pointing out that he's willing to take losses when necessary to figure things out, right? Like, he did that in the Rebels TV show. Like, a loss to him was just a data point, and how
Right.
he could eventually manipulate you into a corner. And not having somebody like Vader there demanding results immediately makes things easier. And his ultimate goal is to get off this Forsaken Rock and be done with it, right? And he even said in the previous episode, "Heck, if they're alive or not, who cares? they'll be banished, they'll be stranded here, they won't be get back. Now, to a certain extent, that is true, but if the Night Sisters could leave via a space whale, so can they. So I would think he would recognize that they might eventually get back, but I think his thought is maybe by the time they do get back, it won't matter.
He's already in power, and yeah.
All right.
I hope he gets to pull one over on him next episode. That's huge, and they're just left kind of dumbfounded, and they're like, "Ooh,
Oh yeah.
no."
All right. Then we get to the last scene where they're all finally together again, and they're buddy and reunioning and all that stuff.
I'm so
And
happy.
this is
going home now.
This is actually probably the scene I have the most problems with, and I'll tell you why. None of them seem to be as happy as they should be. You know how in the original trilogy, George would the actors would always say George had his signature faster and more tense. Faster and more tense. That was his only direction. Say it faster and more tense. This is none of that. This is slow, very subdued, and almost without feeling. There's some smiles, but the body language and the voicing is not there.
Well,
You know
in
what
my
I mean?
opinion, they shouldn't be totally happy because they still don't have a ride home.
Well, yeah, but for Sabine, she thought Ahsoka was dead, and all she said was, "I thought you were dead,"
And this
in
is
that
the first...
same freaking monotonous way.
Yeah,
And
they
and
don't
it's the
feel
first
very
time they're
happy to see
seeing
each
Ezra
other.
in
Yeah.
10 years, not knowing whether he was alive or dead either.
yep. And that when they had their reunion, it was kind of subdued as well too. It's like they're afraid to. It's like their armor is constricting them. They're too afraid to jump out and emote and do things.
It's like they're a bunch of high schoolers that are too afraid about what each other think to show enough emotion of
Yeah.
what they're actually thinking.
They're all emos. They're all emos. They're all...
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I
can
thought
definitely
specifically.
understand that between Ezra and Sabine because they were starting to fall for each other. Then it's been 10 years, so you act like it's not been 10 years, but it's still been 10
No.
years. So I can understand that kind of awkwardness.
But
my
they're
my
grown
specific
adults.
my specific thing was with more of Ahsoka's and Ezra. Like it was just sort of this unemotional hug, and like it should have been. Oh my god, I can't believe it.
Especially
It's
with
you.
Ezra, he
That's
had
what I'm
that
saying.
kind of personality where he would be like, Ahsoka,
Did she train him?
No.
No, Kanan did.
Kanan.
Okay.
Freddie
She
Prinze
just
Jr. did.
Yeah.
She just knew him from
Buffy the Vampire Slayer's real life husband did.
Well, he met her when she showed herself as Fulcrum for the first time, and enlightened him that his rebellious actions were not the only ones in the galaxy. And the term rebel cell, he's like, we're a cell? And she was like, yeah, we don't let you know that there are others for security reasons, which makes a logical sense, right? You can't rat something out that you don't know, So, but that goes back to way back. So, yeah, I think the reaction between Ezra and Ahsoka might have been a bit too tame.
Yeah, I think everyone was just a bit too tame. But whatever.
Yeah.
Ezra's for his character is too tame, but he's the most emoting out of all of them still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty
Pretty
much
much
it.
it.
Yeah. It's like
Definitely-
I am gonna go home.
This is definitely a 3-part arc here that they're going with.
This is something that
Yeah.
I think we agree that should have been like what they should have been doing.
Yeah.
'Cause we
Again,
talked
another
about
argument
this
for-
and how the animated shows did this. They did
Mhm.
multi-episode arcs within a season.
Yeah.
And this is another argument again, but it'd be great if they would just release like the 3 of them at once. Just like whatever the storyline is, just like all at once.
Yeah.
If they
No,
had more episodes in a season, sure.
I know.
But eight episode season where you released the first 2 in the first week.
Yeah. It's
just-
such a short run.
Yeah, and that's and in some ways it kind of takes the fun of watching a show versus a movie, you know.
And it made the first 2 episodes run together for me. It feels like just one episode.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, if you're gonna release them,
especially because those are the worst, in my opinion, the worst 2 of the season. So
yeah. And,
So I'm happy they released 2 right away rather than just 1.
well,
Yeah.
why not just release one giant episode then?
Yeah. I mean, they could
See,
release
it
this
makes
whole
no
season as a
sense.
movie for real.
Right. Yeah.
And cut out
And
all the
this-
useless bits.
Yeah, because this doesn't feel like a show. This feels like a movie that was 8 hours long and they chopped it up. You know.
yeah,
or
which I
whatever.
liked that about it more than a regular show, but I just don't get the point of releasing things. Well, I know why the point is, because they need you to subscribe for longer, but
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I
but
don't.
but then why
so
not?
take that, Disney.
Why not
Make
put a
me
week between
subscribe for
episode 1
half
and
a
episode
year
2?
by doing a 25 episode series.
Yeah.
Well, you know, my question is that
I also
does
wouldn't
Disney
do that.
feel like their show is so weak that they need to put the first 2 out to get you
Yes.
going? Because
Yeah,
we
that's-
don't think you'll be around by the time that the good stuff
It's
happens.
such
That's
a
what I
weird
feel like.
marketing move, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause I
and-
don't think they've always done this. I don't think they
Not
did
all the
this for
time.
Mando.
And they
Yeah,
aren't
no.
having very good success with this one yet. And I think it's getting great. Like, I really like where it's at now, but it is not
Yeah.
doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because you
Um,
had to wait 4 weeks to get to this point.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think
right.
Obi-Wan dropped 2 to begin with. So that
Yeah, it
kind of
did.
tells you. Which is why people were very concerned and nervous for this show, because they also dropped the first 2 episodes.
I feel
Personally,
like Mando
I'll
season
know how Obi-Wan
3. No, it didn't.
When we
it was just
were reviewing season 3 of Mando, I'm pretty sure we said we wish they would have released the first 2 episodes at the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they didn't.
But Andor also released 2 episodes, if not 3.
I think Andor might have
Done the
3.
first 3
The
because it
first
was like
3?
that whole, because Andor was in 3 episode arcs,
Yeah.
and so they
I don't
released all 3 of them
remember,
at
though.
one time.
I don't remember.
But
Don't-
Andor was
don't take our word for that.
also no, it was definitely 2, probably 3.
Andor is on a whole nother level.
and
the
Andor
show.
also was how many episodes was that again? It was like
12, I think. Yeah.
Double check that.
Man, I gotta freaking search for Andor for it to show up on my suggested. What the heck?
You know, here's the thing though. Like, if you look at the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, I think you could
Yeah,
watch
12.
those 1 episode at a time. I don't feel like some of these you can do that. And to me, that makes me wonder, you know, is this a failure on the writing that your beginning of your season is so crappy that you have to release multiple episodes to begin with because you're afraid your audience will be too checked
Oh,
out by the time the good stuff shows up so they don't watch it? Or is this a more of like, I don't know. See, and that's the thing. They're not cutting it up to fit within a cable TV show running. So again, why do you have 2 episodes? You're not clearly constrained about time. You don't seem to give a damn either. I mean, there was that 1 episode in season 3 of Mando that really didn't talk about Mando. Is that scientist guy was 55 minutes long, you know? And it's just like, okay, you know? So, like, again, this just makes me draw questions about what the heck are they doing over there, you know? I do
Yeah.
I mean, this
I
show has
think-
gone a lot better than where it started. I
I
will
think
give it credit for that.
Yeah, I think it's possibly an attempt on some of these writers to do bigger, more expansive storylines like they would in, say, House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones or Stranger Things. Those kind of bigger shows that follow different characters through different arcs, and we flash back and forth between the different arcs, kind of idea. Whereas up until Andor, we didn't really do that for Star Wars shows, and then this show is
Very
actually
simple, very focused.
Yeah, it's very one character driven focused episodes. But Andor did a good job of this, and Ahsoka is actually doing an okay job with flashing back and forth between different characters and different storylines, and then making them come together. So I think that's one strength that Ahsoka does have compared to other Disney Star Wars shows, is that kind of structure.
Multiple paths combining for an epic finale.
Yeah, it feels like an actual deep show with those kinds of narrative structures, rather than just, every scene we have is this same character going from one place to another, doing all these different things, and we're only following one character.
And not that it isn't good, but by comparison, Mandalorian Season 1, feels like very simple. And it did at the time, but it was the first Star Wars show, so it's like this new interesting thing.
It's also good, though. Seasons 1 to 2 of Mando are very good.
Yeah.
And
it is, but they're very simple. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, simple is not bad,
No, it's not.
You don't have to make everything overcomplicated and, major storytelling, and I think that's what I really enjoyed about Mando, is that it was simple. We had this simple man who was
just trying to make his way in the universe.
Well, that's what he was doing. He was just trying to make his way in the galaxy. And it just happens to be the Star Wars galaxy. And that's what I was like, we don't have to focus on the major, timeline changing events. We can actually focus on, with a TV show, what more of your average Joe's life is like. And I love that,
Yep.
Now, you don't make every show like that, but I think for what Mando was, it worked incredibly well. And then it became, we need to be part of major storytelling events in Season 3, and completely blew it out the window. And I went all over the place. But,
all right, I'm going to reel it in now.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do our final thoughts and ratings. Let's start with Tykoth.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Even after discussing it with all of us, I'm still in the same camp. I think I'm gonna give this a really solid 9. I just think it's a good continuation of last episode. I didn't really have anything to say about it. I think these last 3 are gonna be like this really cohesive arc, and I'm pumped to see where it ends up. I think it's gonna be a real Empire Strikes Back type of villain winning ending, and I'm pumped for that.
Yeah. All right. Kli'nah next.
I would like to retroactively change some of my previous numbers.
Uh-oh.
I think the first 3 or 4, I'd like to bump down to like a 7, because I think I gave them like an 8.
Mm.
And I'd like to give this one like an 8.8, because I liked it, but I didn't like it as much as this one. I feel like it's way better than the other ones. That's why the other ones have to get knocked down a little bit. Because they were fine, but they weren't close to this yet.
Yeah.
You have to wait
and
till
even
the season
further retroactively changing my Mando ones, put those way down.
You can't change those yet. You have to wait till you watch the whole show to be like, all right, now that I know everything, this is what I'm going to do. So you can't do that yet.
So you give this episode a 7.8?
No, an 8.8.
8.8, okay. All right. Cap.
I'm going to give this one a 9.
Twinsies.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this episode. Thrawn is amazing. The action sequences were great. And I wasn't feeling, nostalgia baited with C-3PO. I felt like that was logical. Was a bit disappointed that the training with Anakin was not as sophisticated as I think it should be for this. I think there should have been a little bit more depth than just him walking around saying, I care about you and I'm training you so that you will survive. The end. That left me going, that feels like nostalgia bait for me to go, Hayden Christensen again, so sorry, that one didn't work on me. And I think the lightsaber fights were actually so much better than anything that Disney has done so far. I think the ones in this episode are the best that has come out of Disney, and so I have to bump it up for that. But it's definitely not like grand finale time and blow me awake 10 out of 10 kind of episodes. So
Yeah.
for that reason, it's a 9.
All right. Cool. So for me, my first watch of this episode, I was as low as a 6.
Wow.
Oh, geez. Wow.
Mr. Grump
Yeah.
Pants over there.
But it's not. I don't really know what I would have pinpointed as why I would have given it that. It's just overall, when I first watched through it, I was just like, I guess I just wasn't feeling it. But
Were you sick that day?
I don't know. But after my second watch through, and after talking about it, I've warmed up to it more than my first watch through, but not to your level. I
Of
think I would probably give it no more than an 8, but I want to say probably 7.5.
Wow.
Interesting.
Because I just don't feel like I gave the last episode a 9. The only thing that I would give a 9 in this episode would be Balin and Ahsoka's fight, and Balin's parting words to Shin, which we didn't talk about much, but it was really cool because he gave her really good advice where impatience for victory will lead to defeat or something like that.
Yes. Which is kind of
But-
what Thrawn does.
Yeah. So every freaking scene Balin's in is why I'm watching this show. And so with his really cool parts and few but really cool in this episode, it's probably 7.5 to 8.
Just give it
But
an 8, man.
everything else just kind of meh for me. It wasn't great, it wasn't bad. So I can't put it too high. But yeah, once Balin's gone, I'm gonna be so sad. I'm interested to see where his character goes.
The irony is that you'll have to watch the show again to see him
I know.
again.
I know. But yeah, that's where I'm standing. I'll give it an 8 just to appease you guys.
Riot.
Yeah,
Riot.
but it's not a 9. It's definitely not a 9. Balin's scenes are 9s, but the episode itself is not. In fact, I would probably go as far as to say every Balin's scene I've seen is a 10, but I can't rate the
imply
episodes that high.
and that is not the case yet.
I would argue his scenes in this episode are pretty perfect.
I would agree with you. His scenes are 10 out of 10. His
Yeah.
acting, his delivery of his lines,
Yeah.
and this particular episode, his choreography with the lightsaber fights was definitely perfection. It's the best that Disney has done. So yeah, I would say his performances in this episode are definitely a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, which I'm really happy they are, because honestly, if he did suck, if the character sucked, and he didn't do a good job, then I would feel bad because the actor's not here with us anymore.
You would be railing on a bad performance for a
I
guy
know,
that's no
yeah.
longer with us.
But I don't have to worry about that because he's freaking awesome. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just sad that we don't get more of him. But
Yeah,
anyway, yeah, that's
I'm with ya.
mine. So
Which makes recasting him almost impossible now.
yeah. All right, so I guess with that, we'll wrap this up. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let us know in the comments what you thought about this episode. And I guess the next week is the last episode. It's kind of crazy. It's already coming up. So,
Yeah, if you would have told me that at the beginning, I've been like, thank God it's almost over.
yeah.
You know, now I'm
like,
I'm
dang,
hooked.
why can't it be more longer? Yeah. Anyway, all right. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.